We'd like to call to order the June 16, 2015 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. If you would, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I'd like to introduce the board members, starting on my left.
Todd Chernick, Christopher Bluer,
Gary Willis.
Walt Recook.
Jim Hilly.
This time we need a motion to either adopt or amend the agenda as written.
I'll make a motion for adopting the minutes as written. The agenda as written.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion to accept the amendment of the agenda as written. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously. We need a motion to approve the May meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the May meeting minutes.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approval, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. It passed 5-0. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-legal board composed of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determinations. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these four considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and a substantial justice is done. Our sign variant consideration reads as follows. Relief only to the sign ordinance may be granted where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road. That brings us to consideration of primary variances V15-017. Angela, will you please present?
Yes, sir. B15-017, the site, 13805 Bethany Road, is a single-family home located on approximately 1.1 acres. It is located in the rural Milton overlay and is zoned AG1. John and Kim O'Brien have purchased the property, which includes a 1,176 square foot farmhouse built in 1900 and partially remodeled in 2007. The applicant states that the house does not have most of the amenities that surrounding homes in the area have, such as a garage, a guest room, etc. The O'Briens do not want to enlarge the house, which would destroy its original character. Instead, they propose to build an accessory building, which will be used as a studio, garage, and guest house. The 2,319 square foot building is proposed to go behind the existing house, encroaching 15 feet into the rear setback. The frontage of Bethany Way is the front yard, with the rear yard parallel to this. The Bethany Road frontage is considered the side corner setback. Section 64, 4162D, states that the minimum rear yard is 50 feet. No structures are to be located in this setback. Section 64, 15983, states that the maximum square footage of a guest house is 1,500 square feet. Since the proposed structure approaches 15 feet into the rear setback and exceeds the 1,500 square foot maximum, a variance is required. On May 5th, 2015, the DRB offered the following comments. The gravel drive to remain gravel and maintain the rural viewshed. Additional department comments offered at staff focus meeting held on May 6th are as follows. Site plan review, arborist and DOT stormwater had no comments. city architect stated, the staff has met with the applicant. The style of the house that they propose complies with the crabapple form-based code overlay. The rear view shed should be maintained. The standards for consideration were read earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. The property is an irregularly shaped lot with an existing home. We would like to approach on the rear setback, so our garage studio would be sited perpendicular to the existing home and in close proximity. This would be the most architecturally desirable placement of the structure, and there are no trees to be removed in the proposed area. The homes on either side of our property would not be affected. The staff response. The City of Milton applauds the applicant on maintaining the original character of the existing house. The new structure will complement the existing home without overwhelming it, while giving the O'Briens the space that they need. The triangular shaped lot and several specimen trees limit where the new structure can be located. Recommended condition. Should the board choose to approve the above petition, staff recommends the following conditions. Approval for the site plan by Daniel Studio dated January 9th, 2015. Materials and the style of the new structure should be compatible with the existing house. The structure shall include a pergola over the proposed patio. Maintain the gravel drive. Staff recommends approval with conditions of the 2 requested variances. This concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you. Any questions to staff from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
2 questions. Why is it important for maintaining a gravel drive?
That will help with keeping the rural character and just maintaining the overall, maintaining the character of the existing house, and just holding on to a little piece of Miss Milton's history, and it'll also keep the impervious surface down also.
I think we learned our lesson about compatibility at our last meeting. Is there any other word we can use besides compatible?
Well, I like match, and that didn't work, so I went with compatible.
Actually, compatible is probably less susceptible to alternate interpretations, though maybe that's because it's somewhat more general. If you intend it to be more specific, then it'll give the city some leeway in its interpretation of what is compatible with. Matching was more a matter of looking at alternate definitions, so I'm probably more comfortable with compatible than match, unless you specifically want it to do something, have the same amount of, brick or same exact materials. Sure. That you would need to spell out.
Yeah, so the staff response section uses the term complement, and then in the recommended conditions, it's compatible. So, yeah, either one works for me. Yeah.
And also, what is a pergola? Just to make sure I understand
Had to look it up.
I think I know what it is, but I don't want to make sure that I.
My definition would be a wooden wooden structure covering patio.
Okay.
Angela, I'm sorry, may I?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Jim. I looked at this a couple times. I know that the guest house is being indicated that's greater than the 1,500 feet that's allowed, but I'm missing what the square footage of the proposed building is.
2,319, and that includes the garage space.
Page 19?
No, page 3,
I'm sorry, I totally missed that.
It's at
Okay,
the very front.
2319.
okay,
Difference of 819.
right, okay. I totally missed that. I apologize. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, sir.
I'll tack on to Walt's comment regarding the pergola. Why is it important to specify a pergola as part of the requirement?
I think I'm not sure if it was already proposed by the applicant or a suggestion from the city architect. It just kind of gives it a little extra character this house will be visible from the street, and we just wanted to give it a little extra something.
Okay, the patio is hardly visible
Basically drawing.
based on the drawing, but that's fine. We'll talk to the applicant to see what their position is on that. And then I had a question regarding on the disparity between page 7 and page 13 with respect to the dimensions to the property lines. So on page 7, it references 25 feet to the rear property, and on page 13, it references 35 feet to the rear property. And the side yard setbacks are references 40 and 35. So as this board considers the impact, I believe it's 15 feet encroachment, which would mean page 13's site plan?
Could that be distance to, I don't know.
When I scaled it off, a larger site plan off, I got the 25 and 40. We can clarify that with the applicant. This was, the page 13 was marked up by the applicant or someone, so I don't know.
But to page
I
7.
noticed that, I wasn't sure where those numbers came from, but the ones on page 7 are according to my measurements.
On the ones on page 7?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which actually would be a 25-foot encroachment,
Not 15.
not a 15, which is noted on page 3 in the background.
So it's 50 foot and that's 25, so that would be 25, yes.
Okay, so it's a 25-foot encroachment. Thank you.
So, I mean, I think my thought was we'll clarify that with the applicant at the hearing.
And back to the gravel driveway, can gravel be also considered stone? Is not a stone driveway a gravel driveway? In other words, what I don't want to do is gravel's more of a technical term, and stone may include chert. It could include a couple different things that may be also more amenable and give the applicant more discretion.
Why don't we wait until we hear from them, and then
I just want to make sure there's not a specific why they chose gravel. Was that?
It's already gravel, and to us, gravel was the more
Okay.
general term.
Okay.
Any other questions? This time, we'd like to invite the applicant forward to present, and if you would state your name and address for the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
I'm Kim O'Brien, currently live at 765 Cooper Sandy Cove, and we bought this property about half a mile up the road on the corner of Bethany and Bethany that we're discussing. So we're very excited about doing the ultimate downsizing, and we've always loved having one house. And so talking about the compatibility, basically we're keeping the same color, same shingles, same doors, you know, we keep it, have that integrity there. My architect worked really hard to get me northern light because I've been an educator in the area in Georgia for 23 years and am now going to be a full-time artist. And so I'm trying to get that northern light. And the design board did not, they even though it's on a hill and you can't really see the patio, he felt like it was important to stick with the Nelson look of things, and he wanted to add a porch. So we my architect came up with some other ideas, and that's where the pergola came from, which is basically grapevine, straight arbor kind of thing, which we would use same kind of columns that are on the front of the house, and then the same stacked stone to hold the pergola up so that it would be in keeping with the house. But that's what you would really kind of see. He didn't like the straight edge, the design board did. So if the pergola is not necessary, that would save us a little money. But that was the thought behind that. I think the discrepancy with the 35 feet setback and the 25 setback is because our lot is irregular. And so the front of the house is actually on Bethany Road, but the city considers Bethany Way as the front of the house. So that puts the side you're looking at 35 feet, where it's only a 25-foot setback. So we're not encroaching on that side. We're only encroaching on what will be the side of the building / back of the building, which is the 35 feet, where it needs to be 50 feet. If that clears that up at all. That doesn't clear that up at all. I don't have the one of the 10 packets, I'm not sure what pages you were talking about. But it should be 35 feet for both sides, if that helps at all too. There's a berm going down on the side of the gravel driveway, and the owner there has planted a bunch of vegetable higher raised beds. So, and there's a fence line and bushes there, so it won't be, it won't disrupt them in any way. And then down below is is another berm, and it goes down to a big, huge red barn garage. And so the back of the yard we're supposed to have 50 feet, but it's gonna be 35. And then the other side is supposed to be 25 feet, and we're gonna have 35 feet off the that side.
Questions for the applicant?
Yes.
We have to be back 60 feet from that short part on Bethany Way, and then 40 feet, which the existing house already encroached on that, but that was built in the late 1800s.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what I understand then is you're asking for a 15-foot encroachment into the rear yard setback is basically what I'm hearing.
Right.
So that is the side opposite Bethany Way. So as Mr. Chernick said, basically page 13 properly reflects that. Okay, so item 1 is really a request of a 15-foot reduction. Okay. And then as far as the size of the building, it was commented that the building was going to be a certain size, 2319. Are you that exact?
Yes.
Okay. So if we round it up or down, you don't care, just it needs,
You don't want to round it up or down.
okay.
Let's not round up or down.
Let's just leave it.
If you all give us the encroachment, 15 feet, we realized we could attach it to the building.
Sure.
And make it as big as we want, but we really kind of wanted that out. Building,
Okay.
Feel. Is the reason that we were going instead of creating a very breezeway or knocking out walls of the existing farmhouse.
So basically, you're asking that that building exceed that by 819 square feet. Okay.
Basically, the unfinished.
Okay. And the staff was asking for certain conditions of zoning. One was to be approval based on the site plan, and I think the only problem we have with the site plan on sheet 7 is the diagram is mislabeled at 25. It should probably be labeled at 35. And we could possibly just change that. And then the second thing is material and style on the new structure shall be compatible with the existing structure. And I heard you made a very interesting statement, and again, being an artist, you did very well. You said the color, texture, and use of material of the walls, roofs, doors, and windows. And I tried to write it down very quickly as you said that. Will be similar.
I think I meant shutters, anyway.
Well, you may have said shutters too, and I didn't get that, but shutters will be similar to the existing house. Now, should I write that down, and is that better describing what? Okay. All right.
I mean, we're gonna be similar.
Are you okay with the gravel driveway?
I didn't actually remember the discussion of the gravel driveway. We did not put that into any part of the writing, so that must have been a design board review guy that said that. Guy, sorry, I don't remember his name right now. But if you want to scratch that, that's good with us. We are planning on putting a driveway in down soon, but it's something that might be nice to be able to do.
The only reason I kind of don't like gravel driveways, and even the city has a problem with gravel driveways, if you look at their gravel roads, they actually put a concrete apron at the beginning of their gravel roads because they have problems with cars spinning out
Right.
right at the entrance of their gravel road. And I too, especially in farm situations, you have a problem when you're pulling something or pulling, if I remember correctly, you're coming down a hill, coming out of that house, and then you're kind of going up a little bit. Isn't there like a little ditch right
It's
there?
It's pretty level, but
Is it?
next door neighbors have a gravel drive, and they put in, a lift like you're talking about. And, that actually kind of goes over into that little triangle that you see, where our gravel drive is. So it would be nice to kind of look onto their, you know, their gravel and ours, so that we can pull out both ways and kind of doing those two in a nice way.
And-
Whether we kept gravel or not.
Sure. And why I bring up gravel versus chert, chert is another type of stone, and it's a little bit, how should I say it? It's a little bit easier on women's high heels, especially around the house. I know we had an applicant just recently that was going to use gravel around their house, and they wanted to use chert versus gravel. And again, I necessarily cared one way or the other, but I wanted to make sure that whoever it was would have an opportunity to use either one. But again, I think having a concrete apron is a superior thing at the entrance where it ties into a street, because you will have problems with maintenance. I lived on a gravel road for about 14 years, and we had problems on maintaining it. And I had 5 other neighbors I shared it with. And so I just caution the board, just, it's nice to say, but.
Any other questions for the
Yeah,
applicant?
ma'am, did you get any, do you have any letters of support, or I'll ask to see later, or anything else from your neighbors, one way or the other?
No, we actually staked it off where it would be, not officially, but, and invited both of them to come up and make sure it's okay with them and show
Okay,
their neighbor.
all right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have a question, and I'm confused by a drawing that's in the packet, which shows, it looks like maybe even a breezeway. Sorry, shuffling the drawings as Walt was talking. It's on page 10 or 14
Yeah, most one too.
with, it looks like a roof and columns to attach two structures. Maybe my bearings are off.
Okay, this is what, the design board team wanted at first. They felt like you all, wanted to do a matching column to the front of the house and a little porch. And, so, we talked about that northern light and how that porch would take away from that. And so they agreed that the, patio, it would be fine without that. So, are all of them worked out? Because, that happened after.
So in place of what was,
Actually, we do not have that on there, if you show that. That's the original look. Well, you have it on that page right there. So it's, French doors coming out on the patio, right here. Page 9. I think you have another copy of that.
Okay.
Page 9, the view that you would, see the north view elevation, that, part of the garage and the one window and the 3 windows, that's actually gonna be, hidden by the house. And then what you would see is the French doors, where the patio would come out, and the two other windows. So, that's where he wanted to have
Chris,
that.
is your page 8 blank?
yeah, my page 8 is blank.
Is there something supposed to be on page 8? I meant to ask that.
That's a page.
Okay, I have one,
She's referring to page 9.
Sure, go ahead, that's good.
a follow-on
And
question.
then if you look on page 11, we, added the little post to the purple.
Right.
Y'all think that's necessary?
Yes.
And then I gave a picture.
Go ahead, Todd.
I had a question back to the gravel driveway, and we've had numerous discussions already on this, so I won't beat the dead horse, but I noticed you have a 3-car garage, and the way that the site plan would allow for a turnaround for you then to pull straight out of your driveway. Having that not as a paved surface could over time be a maintenance issue and just an issue. Have you discussed that? It doesn't sound like you were very familiar with this requirement of gravel.
There's north on this. Is it- I don't understand what that means.
Not, I mean, down the road, we weren't thinking of doing it anytime soon, but we can definitely do that, that's what y'all need us to do.
Well, I don't want to impose you to pave an area. That's not what I'm saying, but I don't necessarily, it doesn't sound like you've had time to really think through the implications of gravel. So,
It's just gravel now.
yes.
So if we could scratch that all together and then we'll come back to it later and say we'd like to pay it, is that how it would go?
Well, there's other ways that we could address that, I think, as a board.
Yeah.
I mean, does
Impervious
design-
pavers would achieve similar effects.
We wouldn't want you to come back and spend another $250. We'd like to do it all tonight, so you don't have to
Okay,
come
well,
back.
let me clarify this, where did this, Angel, where did the gravel, where did that come in, at the design board?
Design review board.
Okay, design board.
And that doesn't make it a requirement.
Right.
That's their suggestion.
Yes, so now you all have to approve that or not approve it as part of the package.
Or consider it, yes.
I got you.
Okay. I think I have enough to go on. Thank you for
So is that
clarifying.
like the pergola part of it too?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So you're not for the pergola either?
I'm for the pergola over the
Gravel.
other, but we'd rather just have patio and the open, open air
Without the pergola?
without the pergola.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You can have a seat.
I have one question for you. Can you see that pergola from the road? I mean, I thought
You won't be able to see the patio or no, because it's a pretty big hill there.
yeah, I didn't
You're
think
not
you
gonna be able to see
could.
a little bit of it, but
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you all.
This time we'd like to open the floor for public comment if there is any. As there isn't any, you do have the opportunity to make a closing statement if you would like to. Okay. Any questions to staff from the board?
May I?
Yes?
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Smee, go ahead.
No, I mean, same follow-up. I just wanted to make sure, I mean, was the communication sent out to the surrounding area? Yeah. Okay.
And we received no letters one way or the other from anybody. And so I'm just confused, and I just want to make sure I have this, because you had said earlier when we asked you questions regarding page 7, when you measured it, it was 25 feet. The applicant now said, nope, that's wrong, it's 35 feet.
The site plan I was using could have been scaled wrong, if she knows it's 35 feet, I'm comfortable going with that.
Okay.
That would just, that's more of a limit on her.
Right, and that's where I'm going, that if we could say, we end up saying, we're going to give her 15 feet of an easement, and she finds out that, oh, shoot, can't fit 2,300, I can only fit 1,600, right? I'm making up a number.
Something, if she wants to push it back, she wouldn't be able to, 20 feet.
To that, okay. All right.
I've got one question too for you, Angela. If we're looking at conditions of a variance on a side yard setback and a maximum size of a structure, why are we considering anything dealing with a gravel driveway or a pergola that you can't even see from the road?
This is in, we're looking at the rear yard setback, but this is in the crabapple overlay. And one thing, all the single-family homes or any structure in the crabapple overlay is required to, A, maintain the rule shed, and it's subject to city architect review. And so he already sat with the applicant and went over some of the characteristics of the single-family homes and structures that we're trying to promote in crabapple area, and that's covered porches and gravel driveways, especially since it's already there, to just keep that softer, more historic rural look. So all of that is geared towards keeping the
Okay.
historical character of the.
But if we
area.
didn't address it in our conditions, that's something you would still handle under your code. It's not something we necessarily would have to address.
It
In
would
other
still
words,
be
it would still be
subject to
handled.
City architects.
That's
review.
right.
I mean, it would be cleaner.
Right, but it still would be
Going
your
forward.
requirement. It's not something that's definite because of ours.
Let me ask Counselor, let me ask a question then on that. If we don't make a requirement that the pergola, I'm just using that as an example, is part of the variance, that we say, we're not gonna do it. The city architect could come in behind us and say, yeah, you gotta do it?
Unfortunately, I don't know the standards off the top of my head. That there would, I don't know if they're so broad as to give him that much discretion or not. I'd be a little hesitant if it gave him so much that he could require a pergola.
And I use that as an example. I mean,
I mean, there can be some leeway to require certain, a choice of from a list.
Of material,
I don't know
right.
if these exist in this code.
right, because typically when you go into a historic district, they have certain color patterns that you have to
Right,
match. And
and it may be that it could require
every
a
house
list of
has a
certain structures. I think certainly they will set out limits on the type of fenestrations and. I mean, it can get very detailed as to what can be required. I just don't know off the top of my head whether those are included in the city's current district requirements.
And see, I could understand if you were asking for landscaping or shielding a neighbor or something like that we normally get on these type of variances, but where we start getting into architectural things from something you can't see from even that side, I don't understand. And then same thing with the gravel driveways and such, where the last one we handled, there was a problem with impervious surface area, is why we got into gravel driveways.
Right.
So, just a question, I'm sorry, for GBA.
Just to maybe clarify, the Crab Apple form-based code does require that single-family residential buildings are designed with one of however many styles. So the structure will have to comply with
Sure.
the styles that are called out in the form-based code, and
Sure.
for the most part, something like a covered porch is one of the standard elements on these styles.
And since this is a separate structure, it also would have to carry, because the main house has a covered porch.
Yes.
So if she built a shed for her lawn equipment, that would require a patio with a porch?
It would have to be consistent with the style of the main house, main building. Wouldn't necessarily need a porch, but the materials and style and roof pitch, that sort of thing would have to be consistent.
So if the guest house is quote unquote actually bigger in square feet than the main house, right?
Correct.
Would it still be considered a guest house then?
That's actually a good question.
It is for now because of the location of where it is, but, we can call it whatever we want to call it once it's built.
Well,
Go on.
I wouldn't go there. I mean, the code will say what the code says. We may not necessarily have the freedom to call it whichever we want it. If you need an answer to that question, we can try and figure that out.
Does the code speak to the gravel driveway?
No.
Would that be up to the purview of the city architect? If this board should choose not to specify?
His purview is more the architectural standards of the structure, so.
Okay.
I-
So if we don't make that a requirement, the overlay doesn't make it a requirement either?
Correct.
Okay.
I have an idea.
Garage. That's architecture.
Okay.
This time, we'd like to close the public hearing, and the floor is open for a motion.
Do you want to go?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of V15-017. This is to allow a guest house to encroach into the 50-foot rear yard setback by 15 feet. Number 2, to allow a guest house to exceed the maximum size of 1,500 square feet by 819 square feet, with the conditions approved by the site plan by Daniel's Studio dated January 9th, 2015, with a correction to the side yard setback being applied for, showing that dimension to be 35 feet.
Rear yard.
Rear yard setback, that's the variance being applied for. And number 2, the material and style of the new structure shall be compatible with the existing house.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I really, if I may, sir, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I know we've talked about this over the months and years, but I'm really uncomfortable with us dictating styles and matching, and I know that's what the city's asking for. My suggestion, if I may, is that we try, particularly in this instance, that we add perhaps a friendly amendment to say something along the lines of that the house will adhere to the crabapple overlay architecture, and I have to figure out the wording per se, but just go with my thought process, that it would conform to the requirements of the crabapple area. But for us to come in and dictate the materials, it makes me uncomfortable, because you're talking about people, limiting what people can do with a large investment.
See, and I disagree. I think the word compatible opens up to almost anything she wants to do. Which gives her more freedom than if you put it down into the crabapple overlay. This word compatible, she can basically just.
They're both stone.
Yeah,
Or just-
exactly, right, yeah.
But my fear is based off of what we just heard from the city, is that we could say one thing, but then the architect's going to come in and say, well, it doesn't conform to code. If we leave out that portion of it, add in the code base, the code is what it is. We're not being asked to modify the code here today, obviously.
Let me provide just a quick comment. The code will exist and its requirements will be enforced regardless, except for the ones to which a variance is being granted tonight.
But we couldn't say, as an example, that no pergola is required. If that overruled the code in that example.
Correct.
We don't have that authority.
That's right.
Correct.
Right.
For tonight's purposes,
Right.
yes.
Right. Right. We couldn't do that.
Correct.
And again, I have no problem with what you're saying. In fact, I'd prefer to do it. The only problem I have is I typically think, okay, if I'm the next door neighbor and I'm not having an objection because of what I've read to date of what's been applied, with the understanding that they're going to do something similar or compatible to what's out there, and that's why I'm not here. That's why I'm thinking that's a good verbiage to leave in there. Like you, I'd rather have less than more, and I'd rather not have it at all. And if everybody says don't have it, I have
This
no
is my
problem
opinion. I can't
removing
speak
it.
for
In this case, the applicant has expressed
Sure.
their wish
Sure.
to build a compatible
Right.
structure with similar bubble. So I
And
don't
I
think
asked
that
that
we're
question.
binding the applicant in any way.
I agree
In fact, I think
wholeheartedly.
what we
Yeah.
may end up doing is providing clarity for the city architect.
Correct.
And not allowing a single
New
department or
nuance.
individual to.
Fair point. That's a fair point. Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve V15-017 to allow a guest house to encroach in the 50-foot rear yard setback by 15 foot, and to allow a guest house to exceed the maximum size of 1,500 square feet by 819 square feet, with the following conditions: approval per the site plan by Daniel Studio dated January 9, 2015, with correction to the rear yard setback to 35 feet, And number 2, materials installed in the new structure shall be compatible with the existing house. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same signs. Passed unanimously. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck and congratulations on being part of our community.
They already are.
That's right, you're still living here.
Thank y'all for your service.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
Atlanta native, and I'm happy to be a suburbanite now. I've been on for 16 years, and I love Milton.
Good, thank you very much.
You take care.
And I'm still not sure on the turtle, so I'm calling Angela Clark.
She's the right person to call.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
B15-021. Angela, will you please present?
Yes, sir. The site, 12996 Alpharetta Highway, is an out parcel in the Shops at Windward Village Shopping Center. It consists of .609 acres and is zoned T4 per the Highway 9 Form-Based Code. Del Taco is proposing an approximately 2,442 square foot restaurant for the site. The applicant is requesting additional signage for the building. First, they are asking for 2 non-illuminated decorative art murals. The applicant states that the words will help describe the experience of the brand by using the words fresh and flavor. The next request is for a 3rd illuminated Del Taco wall sign and 2 marquee signs that count as wall signs. 2 wall signs are currently allowed. They want to have a sign exposure for both north and southbound traffic on Highway 9 and from across the street. Lastly, the applicant requests an illuminated ground sign. Section 64-2324-1 states that each place of business in the Highway 9 overlay is allowed a maximum of 2 wall signs. Del Taco is requesting 3 regular illuminated wall signs, 1 each on the north, east, and south elevations, 2 marquee signs, 1 over the door on the north elevation, and 1 on the drive-through window on the south elevation, and 2 painted wall murals, 1 on the south elevation and 1 on the north elevation. This would be a total of 7 wall signs, 2 non-illuminated and 5 illuminated. Section 64-2324T states that monument signs shall be externally illuminated. Del Taco is requesting an internally illuminated ground sign. Due to these requests, variances are required. The standards for consideration for a sign variance were read earlier, and they are shown incorrectly on the staff report. I'm sorry. The Design Review Board met on June 2nd, 2015, and offered the following comments. We should not vary from the ordinance. It won't hurt Del Taco's business. The murals will break up the facade. The board supports the non-illuminated wall signs. Because the area where the ground sign is located is so small, adding external lights will cause shadows, etc. The light may shine in your face and may cause safety issues. The board does not support the 2 marquee signs, including the sign over the drive-through. You can't see them from the road. Staff held a focus meeting on June 3rd, 2015, in which the following comments were provided. Site plan review, the city architect, the arborist, and DOT stormwater all had no conditions. Now, as I said earlier, the standards for consideration for sign variance were read earlier, and the applicant responds as follows. Del Taco is a new brand to this community, and customers are not as familiar with the brand. The murals are decorative and consistent in color and look. It is necessary to have a wall sign exposure for both north and southbound traffic on Georgia Highway 9 and from across the street in order for customers and delivery persons to locate and access the unfamiliar new building. The combination of the existing trees running along Highway 9 and the landscape requirements for the site itself poses a significant disadvantage for Del Taco. The site will not only be competing with the existing foliage, but as the area continues to grow, any new proposed building next to the business will pose just another hurdle for visibility on the major right-of-way. The site also sits lower to the main right-of-way, further impairing the visibility from the right-of-way. If the sign face is non-illuminated, it will distort the specific colors of the brand and compromise the national recognized trademark. To not allow Del Taco the same advantage as their neighbors, as well as similar style restaurants along the same highway, can potentially have ill effects on the restaurant's growth and maintainability. Staff response. Staff is of the opinion that the 2 wall signs are sufficient to identify the building. None of the other out parcel buildings has 3 wall signs. The 2 painted wall murals will add color to the building, but will not necessarily help with business identification. The marquee signs cannot be seen from the road. The existing vegetation does not affect the necessity of these additional signs. An internally illuminated ground sign would be consistent with existing ground signs in the area. The applicant would not have to worry about the direction and maintenance of external lighting. Should the board choose to approve the above petition, staff recommends the following conditions. The staff has no conditions at this time. The staff recommends the following: approval of the 2 non-illuminated wall murals, denial of the 3rd Del Taco or internally illuminated wall sign, denial of the 2 marquee internally illuminated wall signs, approval of the internally illuminated ground sign. This concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can staff please reread the standards of consideration for sign variance?
Certainly. Section 64-1884, sign variance consideration. Relief only to the sign ordinance may be granted where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting the minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road.
Thank you.
Questions to the staff from the board? This time, we'd like to invite the applicant up to present. If you'd please state your name and address to the board, we'd certainly appreciate it.
My name is Dominic Serra. I'm with Carmelo Crawford Inc. at 3650 Mansell Road in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I'm representing Del Taco. We did meet with the design review board on June 2nd, as she said, and then she also stated what we think our hardships are, which is our site being approximately 3 to 4 feet below finished grade of the road, and also the existing foliage, as well as the fence requirements required along Highway 9, and we ask that you consider the design review board recommendations.
Questions to the applicant from the board? Yes, sir.
Tell us about your pictures.
Okay, absolutely. I'd actually like to pass these out. I didn't know if you guys maybe had these. So, this is a sightline study, really showing what you can and cannot see coming from certain directions. This is coming up north on Highway 9. As you can see, this tower, which you can't actually see because of
We'll give a second.
Okay, no problem.
Is this just 2
sets?
sets?
2 sets, is that right?
We'll share.
Can you show me what's in there? You may have, I think we have those in your staff.
Yeah.
There's just smaller versions.
Smaller.
I like the bigger version.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Wait a minute, we're going to make sure we're in the right page. So,
This is the north view on That's correct.
okay.
There's some foliage. Not a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
As you're coming up north on Highway 9, it's very difficult to see really anything that says Del Taco because of the foliage, and because of this, we're asking for the internally illuminated ground sign. So coming that way, one can identify, as they're driving, not having to, move their head around once they get past to finally see the Del Taco wall sign up here. As well.
So, is that existing foliage?
This
See
is
the
existing
south view real
toilet,
quick, please.
going through on the other views is the proposed landscape that is required.
Okay.
Everything on here is either existing now or is required.
Okay.
This view going south on Highway 9, because of our site really being low, it's really difficult to see things. This is why we're also asking for those internally illuminated wall signs up here. And this is the view coming south, and you can see the disparity. If you're looking west across the street, it's really hard to really see anything that identifies with Del Taco. Again, because of the foliage, the fence, and the location, and where it sits.
How many feet down is the store from the street level? Do you know?
I believe it's just under 4.
It says 3 to 4 feet.
Thank you.
How wide is the building that's sides with Highway 9?
How wide is it sized with Highway 9?
How wide is it
Facing.
facing Highway 9?
Approximately 40 feet.
40 feet. At 40 miles an hour is a blink of an eye, right? Okay.
So,
I'm looking at a Google map view of your location, and I noticed that it does not have any fence where you're showing that there's a fence presently.
that's correct.
Is there a fence that's going to have to be installed?
Yes, sir.
And is that fence similar to the one that I see that's in front of the dentist's office down the street, as well as, I'm trying to remember the other location, is it what's further down the street?
It's a tire place,
Well, I know that that's behind it a little bit, but the front one is the, I think, a dentist's office.
The doctor's office.
Yeah, it's a doctor's
For
office.
acute care, doctor's office.
So you will have to do that, so that fence is a 40-some-odd inch high fence, because it looks taller than shrubs, which is correct. I recall that fence, because I went out there today to look. Okay,
Sometimes Google Maps is a little old too.
yeah.
Any other questions to the applicant?
I have a few.
Go ahead.
I noticed on the sightline study north view, there's a proposal for a Del Taco sign above the drive-through,
Yes, sir.
which would be completely blocked by the existing foliage.
Yes, sir.
So placing a sign behind existing foliage is,
Well, yes, this is the reason why we want it to be illuminated.
you want the street sign to be illuminated.
The street sign, no, sir, the Del Taco sign in this tower. That's
They
the
want
one
it
we're
illuminated as well. They want them all illuminated.
Got you. Okay, and then that's right, my second line of
Yeah,
question was,
without structures, no
which,
fence.
which of these are actually proposed to be illuminated? It looks like internally illuminated are all the Del Tacos,
Yes, sir.
and the there's a request to allow 2 non-illuminated wall murals.
Yes, sir. Those are the ones that say fresh flavor on the side of the buildings.
At your other franchise locations around the U.S., do they also have wall murals? It's all of them, 100%?
Yes, on the latest
Got
prototype, that's some of the older buildings that are not this current prototype do, but they've been doing this prototype for the past 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So locations around Metro Atlanta have these, or Smyrna, Kennesaw, all want to in Metro Atlanta have these.
He'll need to.
I asked the question to the
You
app.
should have stopped it.
Can I finish?
Yes, sir, you certainly
I'm
can.
being spoken to over here.
What I,
I know.
I know what the signage looks like.
Sure, yes, sorry. Okay, great.
Would you state your name and
Just state your
address,
name.
sir?
I'm sorry, it's just,
Greenmount Crawford. I'm also a civil engineer representing the applicant.
okay.
Mr. Turner.
so, again, the request is for 2 non-illuminated wall murals or signs, but in the scheme A, flavor and fresh are illuminated in the drawings here. They're lit up
Externally illuminated.
externally,
Externally, not internally, correct.
right, but that's illuminated.
Yeah, I think there's and if I'm correct or wrong, but there's a photo regarding internal illuminated versus external, like 2 different things. It's sort of clarifying the 2 ways are illuminated.
Okay, here it says non-illuminated, which means no illumination at all. whether it's internal or external, it's not. That's the request, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Okay. Our request is have it extra illuminated, if the board sees to make this sign, then we understand.
So,
It says none.
right.
Well, what are you asking for?
We're asking that they could be extra illuminated, we're asking for that,
Externally.
Externally illuminated.
for the fresh and flavor.
So you're talking about 3 or 4 lights above them
Right.
that just light them up?
That's correct. Yeah, they're not glowing
I
signs.
just wanted
Those
to make sure
four.
that-
Yeah, those lights there.
that they wanted to do that. Okay.
And I want to point out too, we brought our sign, something here as well, for specific question around the sign.
State your name and address to the board, please.
Rebecca Toppis, Cleveland, Georgia. I've also signed in. I just wanted to address about the gooseneck lighting over those murals. They're not only just externally illuminating the signs, but they're also for safety. This is a 24-hour store. People need to be able to see the sidewalk as well.
Right.
So it's a safety concern as well.
Is this just a drive-through 24 hours? Or the whole store is open?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the drive-through is the only thing open, but you still have.
The store closes at what time?
It varies on locations of the operations department, it varies per location, I'm not sure what it is in the store.
Thank you.
So, thanks for clarifying, you're looking for externally illuminated, the request here is for non-illuminated, that's why I was beating that point.
Just understand.
All right. I'm just trying to get abundance of clarity here. The second request is, while you're still here around the signs, to allow 2 additional illuminated wall signs. Which ones would those be, based on these sightline studies?
So the ones that are allowed by code are the ones that have street frontage. Angela, am I correct?
Well, that statement was referring to the 2 marquee signs, the drive-through and, what's the other one say?
The May first one.
Made fresh to order, yes.
Okay, so what you're referring to is there's a canopy, there are non-illuminated brass cutout letters that read made fresh to order and open 24 hours. Those would be non-illuminated signs that we're talking about. They are on the canopy itself.
And how big are they?
I believe these are 8 inches, let me see, 7 inches tall. You can't even see them from, you can't see them from the road.
Okay, so the 2 non-illuminated wall signs are actually the small brass,
Yeah.
all right? Whereas the 2 additional illuminated wall signs
They're the ones reading Del
would,
Taco.
would include the fresh and, what's the other word? Flavor?
There's the externally illuminated murals.
That's what's confusing me.
I was under the impression that those, what I call marquee signs, were illuminated, but yeah, she said they're non-illuminated.
So let's.
But again, they have
I think,
a light shining on them also, so.
can we take a huge step back for a moment? Let's just make sure we're all talking the same page. Let's start at the street. May I? What I'm going to call the monument sign, right? Right out here, on the same page, illuminated.
Internally.
Internally illuminated,
Internally illuminated.
That's
north and south,
that's the
both
ground-
sides.
That's the ground sign.
Okay, that's one. Then you have the tower, I'm not sure what you technically would call it, but,
That's correct.
okay. That's going to have 2 signs on it, also internally illuminated.
Yes, we are showing 3 signs
Oh,
on the tower.
but the third,
The third.
there's a third
Over the drive-through.
tower over, it's a second tower, if you will,
Correct.
over the drive-through, again, internally illuminated.
Yes,
That's
he's
what-
proposing it.
That's what you're asking for. Nope, we're just talking about what you're asking for.
Yep.
We just want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
This is a lot of signs. And I own a business, and I love signs. This is even a lot of signs for me.
Keep going, you're on a roll.
Yep. In addition to that, gooseneck lighting, you were asking over 2, what you were calling wall murals, words on the wall, right, or however you want to call it, fresh and flavor,
Correct.
okay? Lastly, 7-inch tall,
I call them canopy signs.
little tiny letters
They're little
They are not illuminated, they are not internally lit, they are just up there. Okay.
So
Is there
two-
anything else?
No.
Do you have lighting inside the store?
Yes.
Do you need that? Thank you.
Inside, internally illuminated inside the store.
That's right. So,
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, you go ahead, Chris, you go ahead.
Now, can
Keep
you
on
tell,
going.
the last question I have is there any other exterior lighting beyond what is represented on here as relates to safety in that area? Or are we seeing all of the signs, or, excuse me, all the lights that you are proposing for the building?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we parking lot lighting, obviously.
Right, that's something different.
Right, that's
Sure.
what, as far as the building design itself, like kind of how the lights look, that was all worked out with Bob. She needs the architect on the look of the building and the side of the lights. And
Okay, great. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Okay, so when I'm reading the request, it says to allow 2 non-illuminated wall murals. We're talking about the words fresh and flavor. So if I had to actually say those are the physical words that you're asking for, is that correct?
That's correct.
So fresh,
I will caution you to address the content of any of the signs.
Per the
that's
site
right.
plan.
That's right.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time, sir?
I would caution you against dictating or addressing what the content of any of the
sure.
signs may be.
I was trying to identify that.
For identification purposes, but not as a requirement.
Correct.
So that, just so that
correct.
you're clear which ones you're talking about,
That's correct.
that's fine, but it wouldn't.
You're exactly right.
So what I'm trying to make sure is that when we're talking about it, what's being identified as the
second
mural.
one now.
Okay, the 2 additional illuminated wall signs, that really are not illuminated. What you're asking for, those are your 2 7-inch tall worded message on the canopy.
Non-illuminated 7-inch tall letters.
2 7-inch tall.
Can I just say on those letters, those 7-inch, one actually 7, one is 5, one's smaller. This is like my 7th location I've done so far in Georgia, and
Sure.
I've never had really any city or counties
I
permit
understand.
those because they were so small.
Sure.
They just let them stay on the canopy.
Okay, so,
Is there, think about, I'm
Let
sorry,
him
I'm
finish.
sorry, Walt, I thought you were done.
so if it's 5-inch or 7-inch, I mean, I don't know how the staff wants me to, I don't want to make sure that, that because it's more or less than the 7-inch, is
You
that
could
going to be
do
a problem?
5 to 7 inch.
Yeah, 5 to 7
There
inch,
you go.
5 to 7 inch, 5-inch to 7-inch tall worded message on the canopies. Okay? And then number 3 is to allow an internally illuminated ground sign. And on the internally illuminated, how are you doing it? This is not a neon sign.
No, they'll be fluorescent lamps.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
LED, whichever.
Yeah.
So it's it's fluorescent, it could be incandescent, it could be LED, it could be,
But what she just
okay,
said.
all right. All right, and then let's go back. You said there are 3 large signs up on the tower. I don't see anything on this list that represents an additional sign that's being asked for on one of those 3 wall signs.
That's correct. At some point, for some reason, I did not advertise for a third Del Taco wall sign.
Well, can we assume that perhaps one of these to allow 2 additional illuminate for a total of 4, could I use one of those as being, instead of the 2 worded message signs that I can
They
maybe?
can switch it out. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
they can
I
switch
think
it out.
if it was me and I'm gonna say, hey, I'd rather make sure I have my big sign
Yeah.
than my worded canopy, and I could always come back and get a worded canopy or,
And what we'll ask for, and we know it's a lot of signs, and what we're asking for, and that's what we try to show in sideline study, is that as you're driving that corridor at that speed, just try to make sure you can see it somewhere. And plus, there's a right in, right out there. You can't turn left at our building. You can go past it, turn left and right, and move back around. So
interesting.
we understand that it's a lot of signs, and our intent isn't to over signage, but we want to make sure that we provide the best opportunity for them to see the
Is there another business in that area that has comparable number of signs that you recall?
I don't personally know if there is, Angela may know.
There's not.
Probably not.
No.
By how much difference? Factor of 2?
Well, they're required to, they're allowed to have two. I think the doctor's office has two, and I think dentist
We
has
gave,
two.
we gave the doctor's office an extra sign, did we not? I believe we did.
We gave the Bethany Bend urgent care.
We may have given Naval Federal.
That's what I was thinking
We did,
about.
we did Bethany Bend too.
The Navy Federal right there at Windward and Highway 9's
Yeah.
probably
So
got
so
four
the
or
zoning
five
allows for
signs.
two.
Right.
They're allowed to.
Two, yeah.
All right, so what we're talking about is one regularly illuminated wall sign on the north side.
The tower.
I mean, I don't know which side.
It's on the drive-through north side, yeah.
Okay, so it would be on the, I mean, I guess you have two you can put it on. You can put a north, south. So which is the one that you're asking for? In this case would be the extra one.
The north-
So if you got denied, where would this extra one not be put?
The north elevation, which would be the drive-through.
Okay, on the north side, okay.
So I have a total of 8 signs in request. 3 towers, 2 externally two
But they
wall
get
murals.
they get two.
Right. The request is for 8. They have 3 towers,
Okay,
2 murals,
yes,
2 canopy, and a ground monument. Now, so they're also allowed the ground monument.
yes,
So 2 plus the monument.
yes.
May
Yes,
Walter?
sir.
Sorry. These murals, approximately how high off the ground are they? Yeah, I'm assuming it's 5, 6 feet.
Just looking at the height of the drive-through window.
From the door.
And you can give me approximately.
They're approximately 5 feet above.
Okay, so those lights then were probably 7 feet
The
off,
lights are about 7, 8 feet above.
somewhere like that.
They gotta
And
be
if,
higher.
using the north elevation example, if I may, the lights then to the right of those are probably 12 feet above the windows. And they might be 13, I'm not trying to be nitpicky, I'm just, okay. And then above the drive-through, is there any type of an overhang? It's not,
That's what this is, canopy. The green thing's a canopy.
And that's what the two.
all right, so that is a canopy.
Letters are on top of that canopy, it's over the window.
So there will be then light illuminating down from that as well.
Well, no, those are, just be non-illuminated.
Not the signs, I'm just talking underneath that particular canopy. Again, I get the whole safety thing for drive-through.
Under the canopy, over the window at night, so people can see, yes, sir.
Right, okay, yep.
And there is, like the mural, there is a gooseneck light over the made to order. I don't know about the drive.
Right here, at the entrance.
Oh, yeah.
What I want to point out too is, obviously from a sign standpoint, I don't like the Angels opinion on the sign code itself, but the fresh and flavor, I don't know if that was actually considered a sign or not, or what that was, we were asking for, because it's not really saying Del Taco, it's not advertising a brand, it's just, it's really, it's more an architectural feature in a mural. So it may or may not truly count as a sign, but we want to make sure we talk to you all about it.
It's considered a sign.
It is.
What would it do if those lights above the 2 wall murals were elevated to an equal point in the building? So you would obviously get, I know that light, the way it disperses down,
I don't have a problem with it at all. It's really, the architect really wanted to break up elevations, whereas the architect here likes UD, and that we worked probably for 3 months working the building elevations out.
Sure.
We were very particular about locations and lights, things like that. So personally, I don't have an issue with it. We were talking, they'll talk about things, Tom, and
I'm under the impression that those 3 lights, those lights are gonna be there whether or not they have the
Right.
murals or not.
Right.
So
I think we're talking about the height of those.
I am.
And from an architectural standpoint, you may have an issue, the height, how they break up in different planes of the building.
Yes, sir.
Again, being an engineer myself, I look at those lights and I notice both your height of your canopy and those lights are very similar in distance above the ground. And I do know from being a traffic person as well, you've got to keep them high enough so that a truck doesn't run into them. So I think that's really, you're looking at that 13.6, probably in that range for making it a safety factor where most trucks won't run into it.
Runs into it. The drive-through is a curb on it, and those who sit just back about 2 feet from that curb. So
Sure.
they should not be overhanging on the drive-through lane. So
That's right.
It should help out the well.
So I think that's really your factors, or you're keeping it above, because vehicles are going to go by, although you may have a certain amount of landscaping right next to that
Any
area.
more questions or just a comment?
Okay. Nope, that's it.
Any other questions? Yes,
So
sir.
if you don't have the third tower sign where the drive-through is,
Drive-through.
if there wasn't a sign there, what would be there then?
Just we take the sign off, you still have just the red.
Just the red.
Just the red would be there.
So your other 7 or 6 locations in Georgia, did they, any changes to the signs associated with the other locations?
As far as, yeah, as far as.
No.
No, pretty much like this. Where were those locations, just out of curiosity?
We have Woodstock, Smyrna, Kennesaw, Gulf, Marietta, Snellville.
All in the Atlanta area?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I know the one in Woodstock, it's on 92, isn't it?
Yeah, that was that one.
Yeah.
So
Is that an old one?
Old Windy converted.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I know we're talking about signs, but, I mean, have they already decided they are building here at this locate? I mean, this piece of the land, I mean,
We're in permitting right now, so we are moving forward in the process, and we've actually got our comments. We had a meeting today, which is going to put some comments there, so they're moving forward. They're not going to be able to people to understand that we are asking for variances, and they understand that we're proceeding forward without having this at this point. But the intent is to move ahead. Depending on how this goes, I'll contact all them, let them know. That's their decision, whether we want to proceed with the deal or not.
So the standards for our consideration is that relief from existing structures or foliage, which prevents you from seeing these signs from a public road. The last part being really important as it relates to a 7-inch sign and a 5-inch sign.
As far as those variances, if those went away, you can't see those from the road. That's part of the grant standards, we were in there, so we can see that. We understand that would not be from a public that standpoint.
Okay.
But the other ones, yeah.
And how big are your letters for your wall mural? Does that make a difference, council?
That's a definite arbitrary standard which you can apply.
Panels themselves or the actual letters?
The actual letters.
You can limit it to the size of letters.
Probably 12 inches.
You sure?
That looks a lot better now.
They look bigger.
Well, the panel is 3'6".
So you're probably 12 to 18 inches depending on, we don't have that dimension. We
Yeah.
can
We have to
furnish
get a
that.
scale.
We can furnish that for you, but we don't have that right now.
But if I mention a dimension, then I don't want to,
But you don't need to.
I wouldn't mention.
I wouldn't mention it.
okay.
Per the site plan.
Any other questions to the applicant? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Any questions to staff?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you were saying about the advertisement for the third sign. You did not advertise that?
The third Del Taco.
The third yeah, the tower sign.
It's kind of general enough that they can switch out one of the canopy signs for the Del Taco sign.
And have you guys received any other communication from neighboring properties about the proposal, one way or the other? Nothing?
Any other questions? This time, we'd like to close the public comment. The floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of V15-021. This would be to allow 2 wall mural signs, to allow 2 additionally illuminated wall signs for a total of 4. One of those wall signs would be a 5-inch to 7-inch tall worded message on a canopy, and one would be a regularly illuminated wall sign on the north wall. This would be based on the applicant's plans prepared by, I'm so sorry I can barely read the
Architects in orange.
architects, okay, architects orange. We have scheme A, and unfortunately, it does not have a date on it. But we'll assign a date of being 6/15.
If you don't have a date, you can say that was tendered this evening. This will go into the record and we'll.
Tendered today. And I'll give my reason after.
Could you repeat it again?
Sure. To allow 2 wall mural signs on the north and south side of the building.
You didn't say that before.
Oh, I didn't, okay. To allow 2 additional illuminated signs for a total of 4. 1 sign, that will be a 5-inch to 7-inch tall worded message on the canopy. And 1 regularly illuminated wall sign on the north wall. And then to allow an internally illuminated ground sign based on the plan provided by Del Taco by Architects Orange, presented today.
Do we have a second?
I had a question, so I just wanted to get
We have to
clear.
have a second first.
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify, so the 2 additional illuminated signs, you said 1 is on the canopy, which is where the drive-through area is, right?
I didn't specify. I'll let them decide where they wanted to put that worded message.
Okay.
I didn't say if it had to be a north, south, east, or west. I just basically said they can decide where they wanted to put that 5 to 7-inch worded message. It's up to them where they wanted to put that.
And then you said 1 was where the north wall?
The north wall is the illuminated, and what I'm referring to, I think, is the Del Taco worded sign that they wanted. They wanted the 3
The
wall.
third tower?
Yes,
The
sir.
third tower sign?
Yeah, clarify that. I think it's the north elevation, not the north wall.
Okay.
The south wall with the north elevation.
Okay.
North elevation.
North elevation.
Instead of the north wall.
Okay. I'm sorry. I can stand corrected. I need to
Any other
rewrite it.
discussion?
Yeah,
I
I don't like the way this one's worded.
Okay.
The applicant specifically said that if they were to give on something, the non-illuminated canopy signs were something they were willing to forego. But what they were very interested in is maintaining the 3 tower signs and the 2 externally illuminated wall murals and the internally illuminated monument. Now, they're entitled to the to the monument, just not internal. They're entitled to 2 of the tower signs. They're asking for a 3rd. And the murals would be in addition. So I'm concerned with the way this request is written. If we go line by line, we're going to confuse ourselves as we have. And instead, we should maybe consider a motion that specifies exactly what they're asking for, that we are in approval of course, such as the 3 towers internally illuminated per the site plan, the 2 wall murals per the site plan, and the internally illuminated ground monument per the site plan. And it cleans it up.
Why I did it that way, and I understand completely what you're saying. I was trying to be very careful in how I stated it, because what they were asking for was the variance, and I was trying to be directly assigning what variance they were going to towards each sign. The reason I did not mention non-illuminated on the wall mural, because as they stated, that area may be illuminated because of safety or lighting in general of the building. So I didn't want to get that confused to the staff, whether that area couldn't be lit just because it could illuminate the signs. So that's why I removed reference to lighting of the wall mural. The second one was the most difficult, and from what I understood, as you stated, they are allowed 2 of these taller wall signs, which says Del Taco. But the problem was that it should have really had 4. I mean, it should have been 5 instead of 4. And they did not ask, it's not advertised for 5. It's only advertised for 4. And when I asked the question, well, which sign would they give up? They stated they would give up one of the canopy signs. And that's when I said, okay. And that's when I mentioned, okay, then we'll see about approving the regularly illuminated wall sign on the north elevation.
So if using that, and I'm
Sure.
following you now.
Sure.
So on that second point,
Sure.
if we were to allow 1 additional illuminated wall sign for a total of 3, that would give them their 3 towers. The first one, as you noted, would give them the
Correct.
2 murals, right? And the last one would give them the internally illuminated ground or monument sign, which would, in essence, deny them the canopy signs.
Well, no, I'm still giving them 1 canopy sign.
Why? They're not visible from the public road, they're not necessary.
Okay,
And this would fit
Sure.
within the request, if we did it this way.
sure. I didn't see that, being 5 to 7 inches, which, I guess.
They're not illuminated, right?
Yeah, they're not illuminated, they're on top of the canopy. That's pretty much 5 inches right there. And the body of the word is going to be 5 inches, the 7 inches might be the capital letters. I just didn't think it'd be, I think it's more of a style point than it is perhaps a true sign. I didn't think it was that
The
much of an
applicant
issue. But I understand what
offered
you're
that they
saying.
were
If
willing to give in on
if
that
everybody else
claim.
wants to eliminate, I
But all
don't
their
care.
other stores have this on it. I
So,
think we should do our very best to try to match what all the other stores in Georgia have. And if they have it, and it's only 5 to 7 inches, let them have it.
Then-
I agree,
then-
I agree. I think my greater concern is really that 3rd tower sign.
Yeah, mine too.
That, in past hearings, we've talked about visibility and traffic, and from a safety standpoint. I don't see that same issue here.
Mhm, You're right. As
I
I
did-
pointed out, you can't see it from the north
You can't
elevation,
see
so
it.
whether you make it big or small or
Right.
yellow or red, you're not gonna see it.
Right.
So why have it?
Right.
I agree
And take
with the
away
5 to
from
7
the
inches.
Look of everything else.
Absolutely. Wall murals, to Angela's point, they're gonna be lit one way or the other. It's not, the building has to be lit. There is a safety aspect there. I get that. It's that 3rd tower sign that I have the issue.
No, I don't disagree. So how do we get that to fit within the request?
well, again, I think,
I don't think we do. I think we deny it.
No, I'm saying, how do you read this off? He's categorizing, as an example, the first point, the non-illuminated wall murals as the fresh and the flavor, for discussion purposes, not content. The second one of illuminated wall signs, how many should that be?
You don't need any additional ones.
Correct.
Right.
well, I kind of disagree with you.
We deny the 2 additional.
Okay, and
They'll
then,
get 2.
but then allowing for the internally illuminated monument sign, nowhere do we speak to the canopy signs with the way that request is written.
Yeah, I'm fine without the canopy sign.
Well, but I do agree with consistency from a brand standpoint, and I.
And this
I
is
respect-
also a 24-hour restaurant, call it what you want. Lighting becomes extremely important at
I
night.
agree.
And you start taking away lighted wall signs, and you're taking away a ton of the light for the outside of this building, a ton.
Well, but we heard earlier that whether we approve the signs or not, that lighting was still gonna be there, because it had to be there for a.
Well, this is internally lit.
No, I think
No,
what we're talking
this.
about are these lights that are here.
They're gonna be, that's right.
That's
But,
what,
but
If you
these,
take away this,
these won't put out as much light as that'll put out, I guarantee you.
I agree.
So you take that away, and what they've lost is they've lost a ton of light for the people that come through there at night. And that's,
I'm sorry, Gary, are you talking about these or this one?
you take away this,
Tower.
Oh,
the
okay.
tower.
well, to be fair though, as they said earlier, they're entitled to 2. Where they put those 2, they could put them on the going north on Highway 9 and going south on Highway 9 and not have one on the front of the building, which they have a monument sign, which is visible, clearly visible from the road, and it's only a 40-foot wide building. So we're not saying that they are not approved for this north one. If they view that as being important, to your point, they're allowed to have two.
Well, see, I disagree with you. I don't think the wall monument offers them much signage at all. I believe that it's just not going to be seen very well from the
Look at it
street.
in the sightline study north view. It's plainly
He's saying
visible.
the wall,
Yeah,
the
but-
wall monument. Not the wall sign, not, I think you meant wall sign, did you not?
Yes.
Okay, he meant the wall sign.
Right.
Oh,
It's
not
going to be
mine.
very hard, it's going to be very hard to see. And again, I don't deny that they have more than what the code allows. But again, I think the reason the code says what it says is if it's obscured by landscaping and trees, which I believe this is,
I do too.
that they have an issue, and if they feel they have an issue, I'm not the purview of their business, I think they are, and if we can at least add some assistance to them and,
Of all the signs we've ever done, this probably has more vegetation that covers this building more than anything we've ever done at this board.
well, except for maybe the Target. Target had,
Maybe it's a Target, but only because but for something that was in the street, this has more vegetation, and these are only gonna get larger.
Sure.
They're not gonna get smaller.
But they're not going to be, that's not going to make the signs any more visible, though.
No, but we asked them to come before the board and follow, and
Yeah,
it says
yeah.
right here, vegetation that you can't see from the road. You can't see that from the road.
and I think
So here we are, we're
marketing,
gonna deny them because they came and have done exactly what we asked every single person to do, and that's wrong of this board.
The only thing that I'm proposing denying is the canopy signs.
I'll deny, I'll get
I
rid of the
mean, the
canopy
applicant
sign.
said it's not. that-
But the lights stay there anyway, right? The lights stay even if the
No,
can.
the canopy signs are these
Canopy
little
signs.
5
Oh,
and 7-inch
yeah,
ones.
forget those.
The rest of the things,
care
I'm
about
fine with.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about that.
No, the fresh and
Oh,
the
yeah, get rid of
murals
the
are
canopy.
fine. I don't have an issue with the murals.
Counselor, are we okay now? We're gonna get rid of the canopy sign. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I apologize.
We're having a heart attack over here.
No,
We're in
I
violent agreement.
thought, okay, well, finally.
No, I think I'm the one who's disagreeing a little bit with, not a little bit, but
Yeah.
the third
The
tower
tower, I agree.
sign.
I don't think that,
I
yeah.
don't have a
And
problem
I-
with that, because they passed the standard of care, the trees.
No, but if you can't, Gary, if you can't see it from anywhere other than their parking lot,
Well, he makes a point, though, regarding the visibility within the drive-through. It's a 24-hour operation.
no, and I respect that, and that is a valid argument from a safety standpoint. I get that. I mean,
All right, so then you need to
Yeah, but,
remove
I
your
mean, the other restaurants
motion.
over there don't have it.
well, we've got to
There's
vote,
other
we got
ones.
to do,
Signs.
We have a motion
Well,
on the floor.
or you,
on it.
or, okay.
It's been seconded,
sorry,
so we
You know, I
got
was
to
gonna say, I mean, again.
amend it. It
the-
needs to be
The city
amended.
code is 2 signs, right? So again, other restaurants over there have 2 signs, 2 tower signs. They're completely fine.
Well,
Safe.
we
but
assume,
this,
we assume they
yeah.
are.
we assume,
We
but
assume
this
they
is
are.
also 24 hours, and
And-
that does change things.
All we ask them to
I
do
think a
is
two-sign
to come
ordinance is
in
kind of ridiculous.
and show us that you can't see this from the street because of vegetation. That's exactly
had
what
good
the
intentions,
ordinance says. They've done that.
Correct.
So they want an extra sign to help light it so people can see it when they go by at 50 miles an hour.
Again, you can have one sign in the back, one in the front. You can have one sign back there.
Any other discussion before we vote?
well, again, I think what I've stated, I think covers everything with the external wall sign, so it gets in that extra sign. The only thing that I hear now is maybe everybody's not happy with having an extra canopy sign.
Unless he wants to remove you can remove your
No,
motion.
we can vote on it.
Yeah, I think we can vote
I'm
on
not
it.
happy with the way it's worded.
So just,
Yeah.
let's just
let's-
vote
It's on the table
Vote.
now.
Let's-
It's been seconded.
Procedurally, the motion could be removed.
That's
You could
exactly right.
amend it, you could vote on it and deny it and have a new motion.
Let's just amend it.
So
Why don't
right
you-
now, you have a
It's
motion.
easier for me, it's easier to remove it and start
Okay.
over.
Okay.
This is pretty,
Okay,
All
well,
right.
Can he withdraw his
you have to
second?
withdraw
Yeah.
first.
You can withdraw.
Withdraw your
You can
second.
withdraw your second if you want to.
Draw your second. Or don't, and we'll do the amendment, but it'll really be screwed up then.
Why do we always get wrapped around the axle on these sign things, man?
Yeah,
It's like-
I just don't understand.
If the amendment is
The rest of
simply,
Georgia's going like, what are you guys doing up there?
from what I have heard, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other, but from what I have heard, it sounded like the amendment would be simply to remove the approval of one of the canopy
That's all I heard.
sign.
Yeah.
That,
Todd,
To
make
me,
an
it's not a
amendment.
big deal.
I can make a clean motion, cleaner motion. That,
According to council, all you have to do
can you restate the,
I'm not sure.
the motion?
Sure.
Then there's, you made my point.
To pass V15-021, to allow 2 wall mural signs, to allow 2 additional illuminated wall signs for a total of 4, one of them being a 5-inch to 7-inch tall worded message on the canopy. One of them would be a regular illuminated wall sign on the north elevation, and to allow an internally illuminated ground sign per the plan provided by Architects Orange, Scheme A, tendered today.
So the only amendment. you would-
Well, just so you know, all the sign drawings are dated 3/16/15, so we can,
Where does it say that?
no, not in there, in our packet.
In our package, it does say.
Well, I'm looking at this. This is the colored picture I'm looking for.
Yeah, from our packet, they're all
Council,
dated
does
3/16.
tender today work, or do we need to change it to 3/16?
if he's using the one that was tendered today, let's use the one that was tendered today. It's distinguishable enough, but that will be the official one.
So what the proposed amendment would be is to remove the canopy reference. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
So there would only be an amendment to change to one additional illuminated sign, and it would be
The north elevation.
only the north elevation.
Has someone offered that amendment?
You just did, didn't you?
No. Walt should go ahead and amend it. If, oh, he doesn't want to.
I don't have it written down. Where's it written down?
Then I move to
Yeah,
amend the
yeah.
motion for part 2 of the request to allow 1 additional illuminated wall sign for a total of 3, allowing for an illuminated sign at the north elevation.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second to pass V15-021 to allow 2 wall mural signs.
Wait a minute, now, wait a minute, my,
You'll need to vote on the amendment
Oh,
first.
that's right. Sorry. We have a motion and a second to allow 1 additional illuminated sign for a total of 3 on the north elevation.
Just to be clear, this is a motion to amend the motion. It's not actual approval at this point in time.
Motion to
Just-
amend
Just to
the
be clear.
motion.
right.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same side. Pass 4-2. We have a motion and a second to approve V15-021 to allow 2 wall mural signs, to allow 1 illuminated sign for a total of 3 on the north elevation, 1 5-inch to 7-inch tall message worded.
No,
That's
that's
gone.
out.
That's
No,
gone.
that's gone. And to allow an internally illuminated ground sign by the plan provided by Architects Orange, Scheme A, tender today. Is that worded correctly now? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same side. Pass 4-2. Congratulations, good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks for building in Milton.
Yes, thank you.
Angela, consideration of appeals, old business, new business. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. Discussion? All in favor of adjourning, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign.
He's falling over in excitement.